Good Monday, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic day. It's bright and early. You all know Mondays are sometimes a little bit hectic. Today was less hectic than normal, but we're going to do an Ask Me Anything today because I did not prepare anything. I had a million little sporadic things on my plate, and whenever that happens, it's hard to get stuff done. I'm having a webinar with many of my best students today at 10 a.m., so that's going to take up most of the day, and that is A-okay. This time of year is very hectic. Indeed, indeed. My son got a computer from his nanny, and apparently I need to read all this documentation on it for things that I need to buy, and I haven't done that. Something came out in the newspaper about teaching your children money. Obviously, you want your kids to know money. It's titled Kids and Money. So, need to read this. Haven't done that. I had this to-do list I made the other day. Some things on the back as well. As you can see, most of them got scribbled out. What a beautiful to-do list I have. If you're watching and listening to this on the audio version of the podcast, sorry, you can't see the to-do list. Anyway, it's a mess. So anyway, trying our best to scribble out all of the little things. Because in reality, most things are little things, you know? Grips had a nice cash last night. He sent you a bankroll boost. What does that mean? He gave you money? Well, that's overly nice. Good. How much was the cash for? Forgive me for not following everyone. Turns out, there's a whole lot to follow in the poker world. I get emails very often from you all saying, did you see the recent hand that such and such played on such and such? And I was like, no, I have not seen anything. Volume's really low. In theory, I can move the microphone closer. Let's see. Test. Why is the microphone low? Or volume low? Low now, doesn't it? Hello. Test. Let's make sure we're on the right microphone. We are. Volume range 100%. Test. If I get right here, it's probably... Hello? Is it even louder? I don't think it's louder if I get right there. Weird. Well, if you're on Facebook, sorry. I can't really yell a whole lot louder. Otherwise, we'll have terrible echo, even worse echo than we currently have. So I guess it is what it is. It's fine on Instagram. Still low. It's weird because I haven't changed anything. But I do clearly see here it's not very loud. I mean, it says, let me show you what I'm seeing. We see here, volume range, 100%. Sound system, Yeti microphone. Maybe I'll look up microphone setup. You say it's fine on YouTube. Well, better when up close. Well, of course it's going to be better when it's up close, so I'm not going to be one of those guys who sits here and streams like this with a microphone in front of my face. Sorry. Well, for today it's going to be it is what it is, I think. Maybe I restore to default values? Test. Was that any better? I don't think that's any better. Hello? Man, now you may not even be able to hear me. Well, the perils of doing a show live, huh? The volume's all the way up on this. Is gain a thing? What does gain mean? I just turned up a setting on the microphone. Let me know if that changed anything. I don't know what gain means. But we are here good anyways. Turn it up on your end. That's right. Turn up your sound settings. Believe it or not, you're not going to keep your sound settings at 50% all the time. My sound settings currently sit at about 5%. Need to look up what gain does now since you all are not telling me. Gain means the opposite of lose, indeed. Gain microphone. Well, this is turning into an Ask Me Anything, but it got louder. Gain is the volume. Okay, well, all right, maybe the kids hit the volume. Gain is a term for the output divided by the input of an... Yeah, okay, sure. Much better. All right, cool. You know what? Maybe James grabbed the microphone or something and turned it down. That certainly could be the case. All right, good. It's much better. We fixed it. If you enjoyed listening to me troubleshoot this black Blue Yeti microphone, let me know. There's a gain button on the back of it. Can you see that? There's also knobs on the front of it. Can you see those? Anyway, yeah, James was chatting with his friends on the internet and inevitably messed it up. It's like Jonathan learns a new thing on a little coffee. Your latest tournament could use some troubleshooting. Well, good. This is an Ask Me Anything, so feel free to ask me. Test, 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 test. Did it really get better? It's like barely better. Maybe I should turn it up more. Okay, I believe I turned it up more. Let me know if that fixed it. I have no clue where it was set before. I should just clearly tape up the whole microphone. You're a low stakes player and want to progress higher. Well, study a lot and then play in games that you can beat. And then play a lot. That's all you really have to do. Find games you can beat, play them a bunch. What's the best Christmas present I ever got? Well, only one really comes to mind. That was a Nintendo 64. So maybe that was the best Christmas present I ever got. The most memorable one by a mile was a Nintendo 64. I remember opening it up and having Mario and Mario Kart, and I played it all day, every day, and got very good at Nintendo 64 as a young child. Must have been 10 years old, 8 years old. I don't know. When did that come out? What's a good rule of thumb for the number of bullets you'll fire into a tournament? Listen, I think everyone has a very poor misconception of how re-entry tournaments work. Essentially, when you go to play a tournament, it doesn't matter if it's entry or re-entry. What really matters is, well, it does matter, but it doesn't matter in terms of your buy-in strategy. Whenever you play and you bust, it's a new tournament. So you have to ask, if I came here today, would I play this tournament? And realize this tournament has a worse structure, right? And maybe a different field composition. So the tournament may be tougher, tournament may be a little bit more turbo-y. Maybe the structure is actually not turbo, but it is more, you're starting with fewer big blinds, right? So it's effectively a turbo. So you have to ask yourself, would I play this tournament again? And the answer is often yes. If you think you are good and you think you're profitable in the game, you should still be playing, right? So the answer is essentially any amount. Now, obviously, sometimes that's not the case. There have been plenty of $10,000 buy-in tournaments, and especially $25,000 buy-in tournaments that are re-entry, where I have showed up fully planning to play a lot, but the tournament's just really tough. So I may not even play the tournament. If I do play the tournament and all the bad players go broke first, we're done. If all the good players go broke and all the bad players get all the chips, we're going to fire it in there. This is why you often see sporadic $25,000 buy-in tournaments getting a ton of buy-ins, or sporadic $10,000 tournaments. I remember Bellagio at the World Poker Tour at Bellagio one year got a ton of entries. And everybody's wondering, why did it get a ton of entries this one year randomly? And the answer is because all the bad players got a hold of the chips and all the good players kept firing over and over. Next year it got way fewer, and it is what it is. So anyway, I'm not thinking, I'm going to put 3 bullets into this tournament, because unless you're playing really short bankrolled, losing 5 buy-ins should not matter. And if it does matter, then you're playing too short. Read jonathanlittlepoker.com/bankroll for my advice on bankroll management. But if you're playing with 100 buy-ins and you lose 5 or 8, yeah, it sucks, but it's not the end of the world. You ever play at Playground Poker Club in Montreal? Yes, I have video blogs discussing my play there. Nintendo 64, what a great machine. You loved GoldenEye. Yeah, GoldenEye was great. I played GoldenEye all the time. Many, many years of my life squandered. Let's see. Still have your Nintendo 64. Just won 2 tournaments back-to-back yesterday. Wow, Ian's living the dream. You have Nintendo 64 and you won 2 tournaments. Oh my god. How much does my dad study and how is his game? He plays well enough. Does he like live or online better? He plays no online. Does he ask me questions? Not a ton. Some, but not a ton. Not as much as he should, in my opinion. You struggle to retain information. What do I suggest? Write, take notes. Take notes on everything. Someone posted a video of them on Instagram going through and like making flashcards of all minimum defense frequencies and pot odd frequencies and like all the possible numbers you can need to know. And that person is going to go through and quiz himself a billion times and inevitably get to where he doesn't have to memorize stuff. He doesn't have to like figure it out on the fly, right? He just knows. And people always ask me like, how do you play poker so quickly? And it's just like, you just know because you've done it a billion times. What are my thoughts on re-entry tournaments with maximum late registration? Is it getting out of hand? I think re-entry tournaments are awful to start with. Well, so listen. I see there's a political question right below it, so this is very important to realize. People do what is in their best interest if they are short-sighted. And most people are short-sighted. If you ask a lot of the pros, the actual super high-stakes crushing pros, they want re-entries maximum. Why? Because every time they buy in, they extract money from the bad players. Re-entry tournaments are fantastic for good players. And they are for the really good players. Maybe not so good for players who are playing on a short bankroll. Maybe not good for players who are taking a shot. But like for the actual really, really good pros, re-entry tournaments are fantastic. However, they're bad for basically everybody else. Why are they bad? Because every time the good pros buy in, they take money out of the prize pool that they're not going to put back in the long run, right? If you let the good player win $1 million, that money's gone out of the economy, right? It's locked up. And it's important to recognize that just because something is good for you personally, like for me personally, maximum late reg, I don't care, right? Let me buy in for 5 big blinds. I'll buy in for 5 big blinds with a tiny ROI. I don't care, right? What's good for me though is not good for poker. Just like in politics, a lot of things that are good for perhaps you are not good for the whole country, the whole world, right? I mean, again, thinking about like what's good for my country. Well, what's good for the world? The world actually matters a little bit more than the country. Just like the overall poker economy matters more than Jonathan Little's specific results, right? Even though, in theory, a lot of people only think what's best for me, right? And so I think you'll see a lot of the poker pros who want poker to survive long term. They are actively against re-entry tournaments, like myself. I'm actively against them. Why are we against them? Because I want poker to survive long term, right? I don't care if I win 20% more next year. I want to make sure that I can win money long term. And freeze outs keep people in action. I do think one re-entry tournaments are not bad, especially if it's like day 1A and day 1B. I think that's actually probably decently good. But like unlimited re-enter with 5 big blinds, I think this is stupid. But again, very important. Who runs the games? That's all that really matters. Who runs the games? The casino. The casino runs the games. Every time someone re-enters, they collect the rake. All the casino cares about is collecting the most rake possible. The vast majority of casinos are publicly owned companies, and they care about showing their investors that they made more money this quarter than last quarter. And what are easy ways to do that? Charge more rake. How do we charge more rake? Let them keep buying in again and again and again. Because it's funny how a lot of people are afraid to buy into like a 10,000 tournament, but they'll play a 3,500 5 times. Figure that one out, right? So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. Suppose you bet your draws, but when you miss your draw, how do you stop from going broke stacking off when you miss your draw consistently? Well, you're going to lose money when you miss all your hands. When you have the nut low on the river every time, you're going to lose money. Sometimes you're supposed to bluff, sometimes you're not, right? It's actually, funny enough, the topic of the very next class that's going to go up on Poker Coaching Premium. Check that out, pokercoaching.com/premium. Here's the PowerPoint. I'm actually going to be making this class in about 40 minutes. When to give up on a bluff. So there it is. That's a question I get a lot, and it depends. It depends on a lot of scenarios. At one point, do you wake up and think, oh, I have to play a tournament today? Usually that never happens unless I'm like really, really unmotivated for whatever reason, but I don't really have much of a motivation problem. I mean, it happens whenever you get burnt out, right? If you go and play a ton of poker, like in the World Series of Poker every year, in the past, I would go there and play 3 months, because there's always stuff in the beginning and at the end. Come those last 3 or 4 tournaments, you're like, ugh, can I go home, please? But funny enough, sometimes my biggest wins have come in some of those spots. Ryan says, you requested and asked me anything, and now you don't have any questions. Yeah, well, that's how it goes. How to start with coaching. What is the cost? Go to pokercoaching.com. Get the completely free trial. 60 people, 11 likes. Come on, man. I agree. Click the like button, click the subscribe button. That helps the computers know that you all like me. What's my opinion on calling off all in deep with ace king? Depends on your opponent's ranges, right? Ooh, let's get out Equilab. This is not going to be useful for the person who asked this on Instagram. Sorry, Wi-Fi hustle. We'll get out Equilab, though, and I'm going to tell you the numbers. So, here we have Equilab. Let's give me ace king offsuit, and let's give our opponent a range of... What's our opponent's range? Let's give our opponent a range of aces, kings, queens, and ace king. Because that is what a lot of weak players get it all in with. Well, in this scenario, our beautiful ace king has a whopping 39% equity. So, are you getting 1.5 to 1 to call? Or a little bit better? If it went, you raise, they 3-bet, you 4-bet, they 5-bet all in, kind of small, you may be getting the right odds to call. Right? You could easily be 38%. Because if you're getting 2 to 1, you only need to win 33% of the time, so you have an easy call. Now, you maybe should not have 4-bet in the first place. I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make, is that they think, oh, ace king, I'm re-raising. But like you're allowed to call, right? Many times, I'm not 3-betting, I'm not 4-betting. I mean, just you're allowed to flat. What if your opponent's range becomes ace queen, jacks, and 10s as well? Now you're 50%, well, 49%, so easy call off, right? Because whatever scenario you're in, you're getting those pot odds. So that's that. Have you ever worked with someone on their game and knew they were hopeless? Do you tell them that? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very important as an instructor of someone to let them know that I think they are in the wrong industry, the wrong game, right? A lot of people out there, they hate variance. They despise variance. And you know what? If you like really hate variance, poker's not for you. If you are a degenerate gambler and you just cannot help yourself, you're just going to punt your money in all the time no matter what, poker may not be for you, right? And the interesting thing is a lot of people don't actually like to accept that because they want to play poker. And, the thing is like, people have in their minds what they think they need to be doing, usually because their friends play poker. Maybe their parents played poker as a kid and they thought it was cool, and they have nostalgia, and they have their subconscious wants to play poker. But their conscious mind may not even want to play poker. They may not even like playing poker, but they feel like they need to. And my job essentially in those cases is to help that person make the best decisions possible. I mean, I feel like that's always my job as a poker coach, is to help you make the best decisions possible. And for some people out there, the best decision possible is to not play poker. I mean, it is what it is, right? So do I tell people that? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, think about this, right? Remember how I just said I'm actively against re-entry tournaments because they're bad for the long-term game. I also tell people some people they should not play poker. It's like not a lot, like 1 out of 10, 1 out of 15. I tell people they should not play poker, and that costs Jonathan Little a lot of money, right? Because a lot of these people have plenty of money. And you know what? Maybe they even don't, they just like, oh, screw Jonathan Little and go to someone else. But that costs me a lot of money, right? Because if you have a private coaching student who you know is never going to get any better, and they're going to stick around for forever, you can make a lot of money. But that's not my goal. I'm not a predator like some people out there. And my job is to help people make the right decisions. And I think probably like half of them actually listen. Because they email me like a year later and said, thanks for telling me to look into a different game. Because really a lot of people, they just want to compete, right? They're not playing poker to make money. And a lot of these people don't need to make money. People who are coming to me for private coaching usually have plenty of money, and they don't need money to begin with. So they're playing to compete. And all they need to do is find a different way to compete that really jives with their mindset and their skills, their natural skills, right? I have better results in high stakes than in low stakes. Is this a mental thing? Probably. It's probably a volume thing as well. Do you care much more about the high stakes causing you to spew at the low stakes? Well, you may just give it away, right? If you're just giving it away in the low stakes because you're not playing well, then yeah. If you are... Like a lot of people, when they play small stakes, they're like, oh, I'm going to go goof off playing small stakes. And that's just ridiculous. Yeah, you're going to have bad results. But if you are really trying your best, it's often a volume thing. I remember there was a while where I played a lot of 5-10, a lot of 10-20, a lot of 25-50. But every once in a while, I'd play 2-5 when there was no game running, no bigger game. And I would just have awful results at 2-5. Like, I'd be down like a bind or two every time over like an hour. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I look back through my notes, it's like, yeah, I got in with queens and lost to ace-jack. Sure, you know, you're going to lose. And that was a volume thing, right? How do you tell someone they just don't have the poker chops? Data. A lot of people like to have... You have to present things to them very logically to the point that... you just have to make it obvious, right? You make it obvious. How do you take notes on a hand in game? Watch the video at jonathanlittlepoker.com/notes. You disagree. When professionals like you have great results, it fuels the poker economy because new players start playing. Question is, Jesse, how great of poker results does Jonathan Little need? And do the top 20 players need to fuel the poker economy? I think the answer is not a whole lot. I think if the big winners go from winning $3 million a year to $2 million a year, you'll be a-okay, right? The poker economy is still going to look at that and aspire to it. That said, there's a big problem in that there aren't a whole lot of new good poker players each year. Look at the top of the absolute best players in the world. There's one new good person each year who's even in there competing, and often they're playing drastically under bankrolled and taking a shot. I mean, it's actually it's kind of getting to a rough spot where only the winners are able to win. And if you look at a lot of the best players in the world, they all kind of, look like me. They're all, 30-ish, 30 to 40-year-old people from America. Or slightly younger people from Europe. And that's just because of the way that poker progressed in the world, right? And you'll see that pretty much all of the good Americans are like carbon copies of me, right? They devoted their 18 to 24-year-old life to playing poker all the time. And then they had a giant enough bankroll to where if things ever went poorly, they could just, study, outsource, etc. And that allows them to stay at the top or very near the top. And they continue working hard, right? And a lot of these people they usually single when they were younger, right? They did not have any distractions, and they devoted their life to the game. And it's hard to replicate that today because you're competing against everyone else who's trying to do that, right? The game's not soft anymore. Let's see. So, is it aspirational to see the same 100-ish people winning all the money every year, plus or minus one or two people? If anything, to me, that's scary. Because that means it's kind of hard to break in to the very top, right? What are new profitable plays at the moment? Depends on your game. Do you recommend buying in multiple days expecting bagged ships more than one day? Look, I mean, anytime you're playing these games where you can play multiple days and take a stack forward and all that, that's really, really bad, because if you ever have to muck a stack, if you ever have to give up chips, if you ever have to concede chips, it's really, really bad. They had a tournament on Full Tilt. My last big win online, this was right before Black Friday, where it was my biggest win for $320K online. It was a multi-entry tournament, and you could play multiple times. So all the good players played 6 times. And one of the guys, the guy who won, a guy named Mike Sowers, one of my friends, he actually had the first and the third chip stack when there were 10 players left. And then they combined down to 9. And what they did is they took one of his chip stacks and combined it with the other one, because you couldn't have 2 stacks at the same table. And that essentially just crushed him from an ICM point of view. Because he's going to win the tournament a lot, but in theory he would have taken first, second, third, or fourth 2 times almost every time. So instead of getting first, second, third, and fourth money, 50% of the time each, he ended up getting just first almost always. And that just completely shot him in the foot and took a ton of equity from him. So that's quite bad. Last night on an ACR million, you were 11 of 11 with 18 big blinds. You got 7. Small blind versus big blind. Seems fine to me. Poker coaching is well worth it. Well, thank you. When's my next book coming out? World Series of Poker. You're working your rump off to be the best you can be, says, not bad. Not a bad dream. Yeah. Nice thing about poker is that there's always like a small level you can move up and like gigantic levels you can move up in the future. It's like a video game with 100 levels, you know, where more like 1,000,000 levels, infinite levels, where you really never get to the tip top, but you can always move up slowly. And that's the great thing about poker is that if you take it slow, you will slowly trickle up to the top. Grips cashed last night. He's a great coach. What did he cash for? You all keep telling me he won something. What did he win for? Was it like a lot of money or like a little bit of money? Do you ever fold ace king preflop? Sure. Absolutely. Not often. I'm not trying to. But sometimes I do. I mean, recently I folded kings preflop in a tournament. It went raise under the gun, 3-bet. I cold called. The 3-bet was from a tight guy. Under the gun, smart kid, 4-bet. Tight guy, 5-bet. I just folded the kings. If you Google Jonathan Little, don't fold kings preflop, that's an article I wrote. And I don't fold kings very often, but that was like a no-brainer. Easy, easy, easy fold. One of the two of those guys has aces every time. One of them did have aces. Funny enough, the tight guy only had jacks. He was just losing his mind. How about a nice big stake? If you're a pokercoaching.com student, apply for backing. We back people every month. We just sent out a reminder email, I think. Wasn't a reminder? I get a test email for every email that before it goes out, so maybe it wasn't the official email. Anyway, an email is going out either today or yesterday for poker coaching members where you can apply for backing for January, so get in there. What strategies are effective in the middle levels of a tournament? Playing good, fundamentally sound poker. You prefer bigger fields or smaller fields? Smaller for sure. Smaller fields get rid of variance, and I love getting rid of variance. They make ROI a little bit smaller, but I'd much rather prefer a shorter tournament because you can just play more and more and more of them. Right? I mean, I made all my money as a young person just playing 9-person tournaments. From when I was 18 to 21, maybe 18 to 20, I played literally no tournaments with more than 10 players. Done. Didn't do it. But I played, 50,000 tournaments with 10 players. So what do I prefer? I prefer playing 50,000 tournaments with 10 players so you just always win. I'm looking forward to Nottingham. I am. Nottingham's going to be great. Do they have a free breakfast? I have no clue. I'm only a predator at the poker table. You know, funny enough, I am definitely not nearly as predatory as some people. This is actually a problem with a lot of, especially like the private cash game world. I'm not going to say everyone does this by any means, but you will find people are, well, think about it, right? If you make money by getting to play with bad players, and there are only like 20 bad players in the world who will play at your stakes, you have to fight really, really hard for them. And that can mean being quite aggressive with getting rid of the other games, right? How do you tell someone's not cut out for poker? Are they losing all the time? Do they say they want to learn, but then they just don't listen at all? Do they consistently just give their money away in tournaments for no real reason? Do they consistently complain about bad luck, right? Like all of these things are just really, really clear trigger points that, okay, this person's probably not good for poker. Or poker's probably not good for this person because, I mean, look, like if anyone's just consistently blaming luck and they think they're studying, but they're not, and they've been introduced to the idea that variance exists, and in the long run you actually do get the results you quote-unquote deserve, then it's like their brain just doesn't get wrapped, their brain just doesn't understand the fact that you're not unlucky, you're just bad, right? And if you're bad, you have to study and improve. 2 for the money, under the gun with ace-jack offsuit, 3 big blinds left, shove or fold. Well, Johns, this depends on way more than just your stack size. How many people are going to go broke before you, most likely? Are you the shortest stack? Are there 20 guys with 1 big blind? How much is a min casher? Is this a satellite where you really need to get in the money? You see what I'm saying? Like, questions like this are very, very bad because you're missing all the main information. What's the bottom of our 3-betting range versus a raiser and a few limpers? Depends on your position. Depends on the scenario, right? One of the most prolific content creators and coaches. You don't have a ton of problems with motivation. What motivates you to coach? I like helping people. And this is a nice way to use my skills to help people. It's very, very important, at least I've learned it's very, very important, to try to help and benefit as many people as you can with your experiences. And I've had a lot of experiences where done a lot of things right and a lot of things wrong, and I'm definitely happy to use my experiences and skills to help all of you improve your lives. Remember I said I'm not really necessarily trying to teach you how to play great poker. I'm trying to teach you how to make great decisions. And inevitably, I use poker as the vehicle to help with that, right? And, you know, I'm still learning, I'm still progressing, and I'm happy to help all of you learn and progress. You don't think Jonathan making a big score really helps the poker economy? Yeah, I agree. It's more accessible tournaments like the Big 50, et cetera, that get people in the door. Yeah, I think things like the Big 50 are very good for getting people in the door. It's not going to get me in the door. I played that one year, and I'm not playing that again. There were a million people there, and didn't need that in my life. What's one of the biggest lessons in poker you've learned? Figure out how to scale. Because if you don't ever progress and try to move up, you're just not going to make more money. If you reach a level where you cannot move up anymore, and you don't spread out by investing in other things, you're going to, make your hourly rate, but you're going to remain stagnant. You're going to find that pretty much all the best poker players who reach a decently high level recognize they must scale in one way or the other. A lot of them go into backing, right? Some successfully, some not successfully. Some go into other ventures, right? Some start to treat poker more as a hobby, kind of like myself to some extent. I mean, I still play and study all the time, but I have a poker coaching business. And you realize after a while that you don't want to sit there and grind all day, every day with no other options. So options are very, very valuable. All right, you're on the button. What's your 3-betting range versus a loose raiser and a few limpers? What are the stack sizes? Are we playing a tournament or a cash game? Are there payout implications? You see, Gabe, you're not giving a good question. And when you don't ask a good question, you will not get a good answer. We have charts at pokercoaching.com, and go there and extrapolate a little bit. They're not for when there are limpers, but you have to ask again, how do the limpers play? This is a whole section in the Poker Coaching Premium Cash Game Masterclass. How to play against limpers, right? How aggressive is the raiser isolating? Are they raising linear or polarized, right? Like, all these things matter. It's not just how do you play against some limpers and a raiser. It's how do you play when, well, first off, are the limpers tricky or honest? Do they have aces ever, right? Like, all that stuff's very, very, very relevant, and you've given me none of this information. Okay. Advice for a winning 200 player: you can't move up because of living expenses and bills. Easy answer to that, right? Make your living expenses and bills go down. Or figure out, put in more volume. One of the two. Play more or decrease bills and expenses. So you really only are two options, right? Or improve your skills, right? Improve your skills. So either learn to win more at the games, put in more volume at the games, or decrease spending. You know, you'll be shocked to find out you actually can decrease spending. And if you even save an extra like $500 a month by getting rid of cable or by getting rid of your car because you actually don't go anywhere, because if you actually care about moving up, you're playing 16 hours a day every day. And if you get rid of the things that you don't actually need, then you can get expenses pretty low. Now, eventually you may stop caring about expenses. Like, I don't care about expenses all that much within reason. And that's nice. But I realize that's not where everyone is. As a young person, my expenses were $800 a month. Not a lot, right? And if your expenses are $800 a month, literally out the door, because I was eating cheap trash food, and my apartment was cheap, and my car was already paid for. It wasn't an expensive car. It was like a $3K car. If it's $800 a month, and you're making, $5,000 a month or a whole lot more, then you're crushing it. Let's get on the calculator. All right, we're playing playing 200 no limit. So I guess that's, well, Jesse, give us more information. I'm going to presume that you actually do care about moving up, and you're playing 10 hours a day every day, right? When's the poker app coming out? Eventually. You're a novice player who recently got into the lowest levels of poker coaching. You're very impressed. Well, good, thank you. That was the purpose. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Grips came in 5th in the America's Card Room Million for almost $50,000. Nice job. Where's my telephone? Oh, my telephone's here. Send myself an email. Text Grips. Text Grips, get hand history review for poker coaching members. There we go. Let's see. Sorry you're late. Good morning. Well, don't be sorry for being late. You can always watch the replay. Oh, you meant, am I giving a free breakfast in Nottingham? Didn't plan on it. If you all want me to make a free breakfast for all of you in Nottingham, send me an email. If I get 10 emails, we're doing it. 11th in the scrimmage yesterday. Someone was playing loose and you had pocket ace. Is that good? Yes, that is good. Shipped 2 micro stakes tournaments today. Congrats. Hope you can do an ICM videos for final tables. Okay. If you all just want something, just ask me and I'll make it eventually. How do you feel about people saying sorry when a bad beat happens? I think that people react in various ways. There's actually an article I read a while back by a Hearthstone player discussing, is it okay to say good game as the winner? And I think as the winner, you should say nothing, personally. And I've always felt this way. Because, and this article laid it out actually way more eloquently than I am sure I am about to right now. Essentially, when you win and say good game, but if you lose and you don't say good game, it implies that the fact that you won made it a good game. So the only time for clarity, right, you should say good game is when you lose. Because when you win, people don't know if you would have also said it when you lose. So you may know, or when you win, right? When you lose, and you may know that you say it when you win and when you lose, right? But your opponents don't know that. So, to alleviate that burden, the only time you should say good game is when you lose. Now, I don't say anything, ever, because I don't think you need to say anything ever. I don't feel obligated to say anything ever. I think as long as you are a good sportsman, you have good sportsmanship at the table, you're not like throwing stuff and being a jerk. You know, as long as you're being nice enough, you can kind of do whatever you want. So, whenever I lose, I say goodbye and I leave. Often in a funny way. I do my best to be funny with it. And whenever I win, I don't say anything. So that's my decision. Do you advocate playing satellites? Absolutely not. Well, depends on if you care about winning or not, right? If you care about winning money, satellites are quite bad for you. If you care about getting an experience, satellites are actually not so bad. Let's see. Jonathan Little, I'm going to get a URL for you. Jonathan Little, satellites do not play. Here we go. There's a link right here. Why I tell all my students not to play satellites. But again, it's important to realize that a lot of people play or to get an experience, right? There's nothing wrong with playing to get an experience, but I play to win money, and satellites just jack up the variance. Simply put, if you're trying to satellite into a big tournament, it presumes you're not bankrolled for the big tournament. So do you really want to play way out of your bankroll against people who are better than you? Probably not. Do you want to play a game where you're used to playing a satellite structure, because a lot of satellite players mostly play satellites, then they get into a main event with a very different payout structure. You really want to do that? You really want to study one game a lot and then play a different game for 10 times the stakes that you don't really know how to play very well? Next, you really want to play a game where, let's say you cash the satellite 1 in 8 times because you're a good satellite player, and you cash the main event 1 in 8 times because you're a roughly break-even tournament player. You really want to play a game where you only cash 1 in 64 times? Think about the train wreck that'll do to your bankroll. Is that really what you want in your life? No. No. I'm very happy to hear I have plans to make a guided learning experience. We should have 2 basic learning paths on the site within a day or 2, and we should have 8 or 10 of them up at some point in the future. Do you have any content relating to play? Examples of when and when not to lead? Yeah, pokercoaching.com. Check out all the classes. We have loads and loads and loads of classes on basically any topic like that you could want. Your avoidable expenses are horrific. Indeed, most people's avoidable expenses are horrific. I lost the person who I said I was going to do some math for them. Oh, 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, 2 live 8 big blinds per hour. Okay, 8 big blinds per hour times. So that's $2, right? So you're making 16 an hour times 6 hours or 6 days a week times 8 hours a day equals. So you're making, that's not right. What am I doing here? Let's get a calculator again. $16 per hour times 8 hours a day equals $128 per day times 6 days per week times 4 weeks a month equals $3,000 a month. Okay, fine. Here's your problem. 8 hours a day. Maybe say I can't play more than 8 hours a day because I have a family and I have stuff to do. Well, maybe this is not a game for you. Maybe you need to make more than $16 an hour, right? That's essentially it. You need to learn to make more than $16 an hour. So next, this is $3,000 a month. You know, I realize, so this is, so let's say, get your expenses down. Can you rent a place for $1,000 a month? Minus $1,000 a month. Can you get rid of your car? Can you get rid of your televisions? Can you get rid of cable, right? All these things save you money. So anyway, if you're making $3,000 a month, you need to figure out ways to get expenses down. You are at a period of your life where you simply must cut down expenses. Put you down for breakfast. No, you have to send an email to support@pokercoaching.com. It's the only way I'm going to do it. For fans that want to get better, pokercoaching.com is excellent, says CK Poker. It's overwhelming how much you can learn there. You're a premium member, so from personal experience. Well, that's why we're making these learning paths coming out in the very near future that are going to be discussing all sorts of broad topics, right? Like someone just asked for ICM scenarios. We're going to have an ICM learning path. You know, basic cash game stuff, in-depth cash game, basic tournaments, in-depth tournaments, etc., etc. What type of style do you find the toughest to defeat? The GTO style, the one that plays well. As your opponents play better, it's harder and harder to win. I don't really mind playing against Maniacs because you just call a lot, right? A lot of people have trouble with Maniacs because they just don't make big calls, but make big calls and it's easy. Do you recommend raising with your draws on 776 or 766? I'm wondering how much. Depends on the rest of your range, right? You can easily win way more than the cost of the subscription. Indeed. The nice thing about poker coaching, well, my side and poker coaching in general, educational poker content, it is really cheap compared to how much you can potentially win off of it, right? Like let's say you spend $100 a month on poker coaching, and I mean, if you make an extra like $5 per hour, if you play 20 hours a month, it's just paid for, right? And clearly you're going to play 20 hours a week, so you at least quadruple your money right off the bat, even if you're playing small stakes. So it's like, it really is a no-brainer if you just do a little bit of basic math. Winners should keep their mouth shut because you never know how salty the loser is. Yeah, I mean, like, why say anything? That's basically it. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing, right? Because a lot of people really care when they lose. So I don't know, I don't say that. What's my best Magic the Gathering finish? I did not play a ton of Magic the Gathering at a high level. I chopped a PTQ one time. That was it when I was like 12 years old. And I won like every local tournament. I did not have the resources to go and travel to big tournaments. I think I played one Grand Prix. I think I went like 6-2 or something. So not a lot of big Magic play. But I didn't really like Standard all that much. And that's mostly what they played back then. I played mostly Vintage. And they didn't have a ton of Vintage tournaments. I won some Vintage tournament at Dragon Con. They had like 50 people. So that was fun. And then I just like won every local tournament. What do you think about writing notes from the slides and going back and watching the videos? Is that an efficient way to study? I would watch videos as you go, pause it, and go from there. But I mean, do whatever works for you, right? I mean, everybody has their own system for note taking, so figure out a way that you can take notes that works best for you. Your kid chopped the tournament on his 18th birthday. Congrats. If you can't play that much, should you take shots at bigger buy-ins? Why? No, you just have to realize poker's not the game for you. You're not going to get rich playing poker if you don't play poker. You have to play poker. 600, 1200. Rebuy period ended. That doesn't really matter.
Under the gun lag, min raises. Heroes on the button with 35 big blinds. You call with ace-3 suited. Maybe just fold pre-flop. Or a 3-bet. Call's fine too, I guess. Flop comes ace... I'm sorry. Flop comes 5, 3, 2. 2 spades, so you have the nut draw. Good. Under the gun checks. You bet. I just wouldn't even bet here. I would probably just check. You have a very clear marginal made hand, and you have a draw to the nuts. And you don't particularly want to get raised. So, anyway, you bet. Opponent shoves for infinite. Do you call? Yeah, absolutely. He could easily have a worse draw, right? If they can ever have worse draws, you have an easy call. And you always have like 50% against everything anyway. After joining poker coaching, you have a 33% ROI, up from 20%. There you go, right? Just like solid increases like that is what we're looking for. Solid increases that immediately pay back the coaching, and you're just going to continue increasing over time. What do you do when you lose your mind in the middle of a tournament? I don't lose my mind in the middle of a tournament. I try to, look, I think being accountable for your play and your results and your experience is very, very important. I always write down all my hands. I always review all my hands. And I do not make dumb plays and lose my mind because it is painful to look back and realize I gave away my family's money to someone else. I don't like that experience. Certainly I've given it away a few times, but I don't like that experience of knowing that I made a poor play. Now, certainly sometimes you bluff, right? And you can look back and say that was a good bluff. Just the other day in the party poker tournament, one of my friends actually ran a big bluff against me, and it failed. And it was a bit of a punt. And he said after the hand, like, man, I don't know why I did that. Well, probably because he thinks I'm a little bit too tight, which is fine, right? Maybe that was the logic. He's like, man, I haven't made a punt like that in a year. And this is like a good, super loose, aggressive player. He's like, man, like, it was just a bad punt. And he's like, man, I can't believe I just did that. And I'm like, yeah. We have a joking dynamic. I think I said something like, thank you. But it was fun. Anyway, how do you note your hands in real time? Poker, or jonathanlillpoker.com/notes. Watch that video. All right, I have to get going. We're running out of time soon. I want to thank you all for all your questions. Dax got third last night in the tournament, and you're still live in the main event. Awesome. Congrats. You got a massive run, finished 957th out of 39,000. Really thought you could have taken it. So the funny thing about making like a deep run, like 1,000th out of 39,000, is that when you buy into a 1,000-person tournament, are you thinking you're going to win? Woo, not usually. I mean, obviously everyone's thinking they can win, or at least a possibility, but you're not like, yeah, I win this every time. But it's funny, like, if you just get like 5 starting stacks in a tournament, everyone starts thinking, oh, right, this is the one. Whereas in reality, you have 5 starting stacks out of like 1,000. Like, you're probably not winning this tournament. It's important to be realistic. But yeah, I definitely know that feeling where you're like, oh my god, I could actually win this tournament. I think the biggest tournament I ever won in terms of players was something like 39,000 people. It was a tournament on PokerStars. It was a $10 game. And I won it for like 100K or something. And I was thinking, man, if this was just the main event, I would have won, main event of the World Series, I would have won $10 million. Instead, I have 100K. That's how it goes. Your biggest hurdle will always be your inability to put in volume. You study when you can, but family and career come first. And see, Mark, it's important to recognize and accept that family and career does come first for a lot of people. So fine. You are not going to achieve the poker results you want. So instead, do the best with what you have. And realize that it does take a back burner to some other things. Right? And that's okay, right? Like, I have other things that I enjoy doing. I mean, my health and fitness, my fitness has taken a back burner to all of you. I used to go to the gym every morning at 9 a.m. You know what I do at 9 a.m. now on most of the mornings? Talk to all of you. I put helping you above fitness to some extent. And that's okay. I don't mind. I'm still in decent shape. I lift James over my head 10 times every morning. And I figure if I can do that until he's 18, I'll be in good shape. But everything takes sacrifices. And it's important to recognize that, right? And you have to figure out what you actually value. And maybe poker's not it. And if poker's not it, don't be unhappy when you don't get the results that you want. If you raise flop or 9-8 suited, flop 2 pair, 2 or 3 way, do we generally c-bet our top pair for protection? You just said you flop top 2, or you flop top pair, I see. Usually bet. Yeah. Usually bet if it's vulnerable, right? And top pair with 9-8 is usually going to be very vulnerable. So it's usually fine to bet. Poor baby, only won 100K. Yep. So I think a lot of people don't recognize that money becomes very relative, especially when the money you have is a tool, right? And if I turned, let's say, $1 million bankroll into 11 million by winning the main event, that'd be very substantial. If I turn $1 million bankroll into 1.1 million, yeah, it's nice, but it's like a drop in the bucket. This is something I had to help my wife with initially when I first met her. She's like, "Oh, what are you going to spend that money on when you won?" I'm like, "I'm not going to spend it on anything. It's just going to go sit in the bank and get ready to be launched into more tournaments, right?" Your bankroll is a tool. It is not money that should be spent. And I think a lot of people view money across the board as something you work for, something you make, and then something you spend. And I instead view it as something you get when it comes from variance, right? You don't always collect it, but you do have to put in volume to have the potential to get it. And then once you do get it, it's not something you spend, it's something you reinvest. And the amount you can reinvest is often related to your bankroll size. So if your bankroll goes from $1 million to 1.1, doesn't really change anything. But if your bankroll goes from 1 to 11, it changes things substantially. So do not think that I am complaining about anything, because I'm certainly not. My life's great. But recognize that money is relative, and at some point it just stops mattering to some extent. Think about it, right? If you progress high enough, you have $1 billion to your name, and you're not trying to actively take over the whole world, which may require more than $1 billion. Money's completely irrelevant, right? For most people, once you get to I think about 100 million-ish is where you really don't need to think about money anymore. You can pretty much do whatever you want. You can't do everything you want, even with $100 million, but you can do pretty much whatever you want. Not that I'm there. I'm nowhere near there yet. Maybe one day. And as you get a hold of money, it sort of steamrolls into more money slowly but surely, to where eventually you're making $100K a year off passive investments. And that's fantastic. All you really need is $2 million in the bank to make $100K a year, just kind of by sitting around, just by investing it, right? Obviously there's variance in that too, but imagine you could just make $100K a year by sitting around. And that's kind of the goal. Once you have reasonable expenses and reasonable expectations in life, you can get there. CK Poker says it takes money to make money. Not necessarily. In things where you invest, in things where you need business capital, in terms of money, it absolutely does. But in most, that's the big difference here, right? Is that in regular life, it doesn't really take it doesn't take money to make money. It just takes you going and working to make money. But in games like poker or investing or real estate, whatever, it does take money to make money. It takes money and it takes effort and work. And I think a lot of people don't really connect those two things, because most people do have a regular job. They grow up, they go to school, they go to college, they get good grades, they get a job. Then they work that job, and that money they make, they spend. They don't take that money and reinvest it, at least in high variance things like poker, because they just don't, or the stock market, right? Because they don't even think they need to. That's not what they do. So when they do play a game like poker, they view it as, buying in, right? They don't view it as investing. They view it as, I'm going to purchase these chips and then probably lose them, and then they're gone. As opposed to, I bought into this tournament, I have some ROI, I get that back on average, and then I go from there. This is why I don't care about guarantees on tournaments to some extent, right? Guarantees make the field softer because more people play. But the idea of I can win $1 million in this tournament, so I'm going to go play that one, does not make sense at all, because when you buy into a tournament, you just get your ROI. Whatever your ROI is, you get it on average. And then you cash it out and you go from there. Obviously, usually you don't win it, right? Usually you lose, but that's how I view the game, right? Every time you play, you extract some amount of value. All right, I have to go. Hope you all have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. Be nice to someone. Do your best to help other people have a better experience. So at the end of the day, if we all just have better experiences, then we'll all be happier. What cars do you drive? I haven't had a car for about 10 years. I don't like headaches. Talking about keeping expenses low. Good way to keep expenses low is to get rid of a car, because then you don't have to, buy the car. Then you also don't have insurance, and you also don't have gas. Obviously, you do have other expenses, like taxi cabs or Ubers, right? But Uber has made it to where if you live in a major city and you don't go places very often, like far away, you really don't need a car. I think we actually talked about this in the last episode. where we said that, like driving in an Uber, if you value your time, makes you so much money. Because think about it, right? Like, let's say you can make $100 an hour while sitting in the car, or you value your relaxing time at $100 an hour. If you only have to pay the Uber $50 an hour to drive you around, you have to go somewhere that's going to take you an hour, you make $50 by taking that Uber. That's pretty insane, right? And it shows you the value of getting to where you can scale, right? Remember, if you only make money while you're specifically playing poker, you can't scale. You kind of squander that time. So if you do happen to need to sit in the car, make sure you don't squander your time. So many people only listen to music when they sit in the car. Look, I'm all for music. Music's great. But especially if you don't have skills yet, learn a skill while you're in the car. Listen to podcasts, right? Listen to educational material. Listen to audiobooks. Educate yourself. What's the best method to play a short stack? Fundamentally sound. I have a push fold app. Go to pokercoaching.com, look under the tools. Have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. I'll talk to you next time.